Welcome back to the mountain as this Saturday afternoon rolls on and we get ready for our top 10 shootout, which will be coming up within 25 minutes. So make sure you stick around to determine who gets pole position for the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000 of 2012. And we can run you through the start list, how they qualified for this one. Jamie Whincup led the way all day throughout qualifying yesterday and ended up first at 2:07.7. So Whincup will be last out in car number 1 in the shootout. Fabian Coulthard, terrific job for car 14. He'll be second last out. Mark Winterbottom, pole position here twice before. Will Davison, former winner here. Craig Lowndes, we know he's a former winner, also 2 poles next to his name. Then it's Shane van Gisbergen. Tim Slade, first time inside the top 10 here. Garth Tander, dual pole sitter, 3-time winner. Steve Owen, who's paired up with Paul Morris, and David Reynolds in car 52D for the Bottle entry will be the first man out. So 1 lap, a tick over 2 minutes to get it right. That's the time you're aiming for, and you will join a prestigious honour roll for pole position for the great race. Let's bring in both Mark Scaife, who's had pole here 5 times and 6 victories, and of course our voice of V8's Neil Crompton. Boys in pit lane. First of all, Crompo, what's the weather doing?
Well, it's changing at the moment, Matty. Scaife and I have been looking around, casting an eye here and there. It's much cooler. There's cloud cover, and we always have a bit of fun in the commentary box and in the production unit trying to determine direction. The wind has now swung to the east-southeast, where all weekend it's been coming from the southwest or the west, and so I think there's going to be some weather. The question is, does it get here at 4:30, Scaife? And if it does, how that impacts this shootout?
Well, I can't believe the tension. Can you? I mean, up and down pit lane now, guys that are in this top 10, this is one of the most high-pressure, intense moments in Australian motorsport, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the weather's going to do. There was only 3 or 4 guys this morning who actually did a good job of replicating this top 10 lap, and as Matt said before, you've only got 2 minutes to determine your qualifying position for the biggest race in this country. It's going to be great.
Very different to qualifying. We talked about it at the top of the show. You get 40 minutes yesterday to ply your trade where you get to concentrate. But in this game now, it's 2 minutes, a standing start, cold tyres, bang, you've got to do it. You can see the radar image all day to the south of here. There's been a lot of weather passing through Victoria and southern New South Wales. We've been getting away with it, but whether or not we continue to get away with it is the issue. Inside the garage here, we're standing outside Brad Jones Racing and Team BOC car and the Lockwood car are here at the moment, Scaife. So the boys are going through 2 completely different regimes in the lead up now to the event. Think about tomorrow. It's not just about this afternoon. On one side of the garage, you've got Jason Bright, who missed out by less than a 1/10 of a second being in the top 10 and copped a very heavy balk in qualifying, which the stewards are looking at the moment. And the other side of the garage, you've got Fabian Coulthard, who we've both been talking all day together privately, did a stunning job. He missed out by 0.0786 of a second. You think about the magnitude of both operations, Team Vodafone and Bradley's show in here, they're very different.
Oh, they certainly are. And we said, you know, we thought that Fabian's effort was probably the man of the match. The way that you do this, and in a 40-minute session like that, you have to organise yourself, and you get 3 or 4 goes if you really need to keep on putting tyres on it. So right at the end there, as you said, Jason Bright was caught up. Fabian Coulthard did a really good job to land in the number 2 spot, but really it means nothing now. This is the top 10 shootout. This means that you drive the car out of the pit and you don't know how much grip you've got, and you have to warm the tyres up. You have to set the suspension and all the things to get the best yield from this car for 1 lap.
And a little bit of educated guesswork in the process, because now there's cloud cover. It means that your cold starting tyre pressures will be different to, for example, if the sun was shining, because that will make a difference to the way in which you start your lap, and you want your pressures to be ideally at the correct temperature and pressure at the beginning of the lap, or even phasing in as the lap unfolds. All those things make it a little bit tricky. Actually, I just felt a little bit of water on the back of my neck then, so look, it's going to be an interesting scenario.
Oh, unbelievable. And the drivers have got to feel that. They've got to be able to determine. You're a pioneer. You arrive at the corner and you don't know how much grip you've got. That's why it's so intense.
Should we have a look in the front of the garage here and just see what the blokes are doing? Scaife will go walkabout. He's looking at me thinking, where's this leading? Anywhere is the answer. Phil Keed on the left, who's engineering here. He was the engineer with Jason Bright. He's actually heading out the back earlier in the early part of the year, but the boys are just doing wheel nut tensions here, simple stuff to make sure that the basics are done. They're running some air through the radiator at the front of the car. Larko did a nice little story on these tension wrenches earlier in the year just to explain how much load goes into them. Scaife, you know what it's like. You've got to check every last little detail. These guys are going through a checklist process to make sure that this car is absolutely perfect. One of the things they might need to do is waterproof it to an extent in case the weather does cave in. And on that basis, you need to have the anti-fog on the screens and make sure that everything functions from a wet weather standpoint, because there's a couple of considerations there.
Oh, look, no doubt. And a lot of the work is not just about tyre pressures, it's actually getting yourself organised to make sure that you're ready for whatever that circumstance is. You know, winning Bathurst or even being on the top 10 and qualifying the way that you should qualify is not about luck, it's about preparation.
We've turned up in here and it's scattered the boys, no more work going on, so it's time to go back up to the other end of the garage now. Mark Beretta's up there with Timmy Slade having his first appearance in the shootout. Mark?
We're counting down in the Lucky 7 Transporter with Tim Slade. Tim, just going over the last few details for the shootout. Your first Bathurst shootout. How are you feeling about that? You excited?
I am extremely excited. There's a fair few little nerves that I've got. So I think, you know, the best thing to do is get in the car and get out there on that warm-up lap, which is actually what I'm looking at now, these top 10 shootout guns from 2010, just seeing what the best warm-up procedure is. You know, I'm sure once I'm out there, those nerves will start to go away.
What's the one thing that you want to keep in mind when you head out on the shootout?
Probably bring the car back straight, keep it off the walls. It's always such a fine line, you know, in the shootouts. You always want to, obviously, you know, extract the most you can from the car, and being Bathurst, you know, such a special event, you want to get the most out of it and start, you know, further or as far up the front as possible. But also, you know, it's not much time to the race tomorrow, so you want to, you know, not want the boys to have a late night tonight fixing it.
Mate, settle those butterflies in the tummy and enjoy it out there.
Thanks, Brett.
Yeah, he had a good run at the Sandown 500, Tim Slade, with Andrew Thompson finishing inside the top 10. He ended up finishing our first Enduro of the year in 7th, Tim Slade. We've also got another top 10 countdown coming your way at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. So after the shootout, our special guest will be joining us as we go through all the awesome moments. That's how David Reynolds prepares for taking on one lap. That's what he thinks about it, and he will certainly have different eyes on when he gets the helmet on and goes out first in the shootout. Stick around, it's coming our way very soon to determine pole position for the great race tomorrow. But on the way, what about this one? 2003, the Lap of the Gods. He holds it together through the chase. And Greg Murphy, listen to the crowd roar.
You know, being able to do something that was as significant as 2003, you know, that sends shivers down my spine still to this day.
He has released the shackles on car 51.
You know, to cross the start-finish line after the shootout and see what flashed up on the dash.
A blistering lap. Holy smokes! 6.68. That's record breaker.
And that was just like, wow, that's mind-blowing.
Uncharted territory for anybody on the mountain.
But then to drive down the pit lane and see just the floods of all those people that are in those garages, all of them come out and applaud it, that's the bit that will sit with me forever.
Look at that. You will never see that at any other time in Australian motorsport.
Doing the lap was phenomenal, and to be in the car and feel it and remember it and be able to watch it is awesome. But the accolade of having all your peers, you know, forever, that will be the bit that you know, makes it what it was.
Quite simply, the most incredible lap you're ever going to see. There is an eerie feeling over the mountain right now, not just because we've got grey clouds up above, but the track is clear. And in a minute, David Reynolds will be the first man out in the top 10 shootout. 6.213 kilometres all to himself along the most iconic piece of road we've got in Australian motorsport, a public road for most of the year. But this weekend, it belongs to all of us, I guess. Over 50 years of celebrating endurance racing here, and pretty soon David Reynolds will know about it when he heads out of pit lane. He's been given the go-ahead, car 52D this weekend, the Bottle racer. There's his co-driver, Dean Canto, and the Brains Trust out of Rod Nash Racing and Ford Performance Racing. So all indications are, fellas, that we may get some rain over the next 10 guys out, and that's exactly what happened to us in 2011. 3 guys were caught out by the wet.
Which would be a shame.
Yep.
Because it would be fantastic if it was consistent. We saw everybody put their best foot forward, but the conditions look a bit weird at the moment. Recapping qualifying yesterday, and Whincup was the fast man, that tiny margin back to Fabian Coulthard. Mark Winterbottom squeezed a lap in at the very last moment. And you can see car 52D, recognition of one of the greats of yesteryear. David Reynolds is out on circuit. He was 10th fastest. He only just squeaked in. He wasn't happy at all with the behaviour of the car. They've been working to tidy it up. Neither he nor Dean have been overly happy with it. It bumped Dean last night. He was a bit frustrated with, I said, which end and why? He said, both ends. I haven't quite got the confidence in it that you need to have around here. Just while we wait for him to get a bit of temp in here, the FA18's gone home, which is Williamtown, which is Newcastle.
It's probably landing about now.
It's 10 minutes. 17 kilometres with every passing minute at the speed it came in here. 23 corners. Mount Panorama, though, 6,200 metres of it. And we've seen some fantastic laps here in this shootout over the years. A colleague alongside us, Mark Scaife, had pole position on 5 occasions. It has the highest average speed of any circuit that we go to. Mark Larkin made the point earlier about the commitment required to get the job done here. We'll be looking very carefully at sector splits. That first intermediate comes up in the run up to the top of the mountain, and the second intermediate jumps at us as they come out of Forest Elbow. And Scaife, you've got the splits there. What are the numbers that we need to be looking for?
Late 51, Neil, for the first sector, and then a number like a 26, a low 26 will be 1 minute 26 will be the second sector, and that is a mid 2:07, which is the lap time that we've seen Whincup achieve over the weekend.
We do top 10 shootouts all around the country. It's been going for quite a while, but what is it like to do one lap around here by yourself, have the whole place to yourself?
It's extraordinary, Matt. I couldn't believe the intensity when Neil and I were standing in the pit lane there before. Don't throw it away now, Davey. There's big licorice marks on the road there as he chucks it sideways. It is the most intense thing that I've ever done in a race car. It's worse than the start, because you are there by yourself. You know that you've got to be 100% committed, and you know that you are nothing away from crashing. The reward for greatness is pole position. The reward for an average job is either way back in the field or in the fence.
Last corner, Murray's corner. This is the one you've got to get right. The exit here as he takes aim at the flying lap. The first of the top 10 shootout of 2012. David Reynolds hits the course.
And we'll watch with interest the way everybody approaches this now. David started his run coming out of the chase. That's where he committed to race speed. It's very late in the process.
Went as wide as you want to go on the exit of turn 1 there at Hill Corner. 27 years of age. He's got such a laid-back nature, but now he's got his hands full. Up over Mountain Straight, over the crest. The build up towards turn 2.
And that's when you're nervous, Matt. You've got to get this corner right. That's the most important corner on the track. Big slide, very nicely done. He caught it very well, and it was a really good run out of turn 2.
And that sets the trend. The feel, the grip that you have, the way the car transmits what it's doing to you, gives you the cue to be able to go on with the lap. Either you've got some balance, or you've got some grip, or you haven't, and you trim yourself accordingly.
Oh, that is very, very close to the fence there. 52.6. That is 7/10 away from the fastest that we've seen. And it may be the condition. We may be talking absolute rubbish, because you've got to drive the car to the grip level of the day. And this grip level, he will not know until we get 2 or 3 runners to decide as to what the number is when we get a little look at the overall grip and effective lap time.
And the late start of the lap tells me that they started with the tyre pressures up, because they don't want them to overbuild through this lap. The second timing intermediate coming up here.
That was close.
On 27.2, so it's about 1.2 seconds away from what we've seen in qualifying. But as Mark said, the conditions have changed. The wind has swung 180 degrees. There's cloud cover. Now Reynolds sizes up where he puts his foot on the brake in the chase. The Caltex chase from 300 kilometres an hour.
On the limiter. Well done. Got to get it stopped. Look at the brake rotor. Look at the brake rotor in the entry phase to the left-hander. It was just a glow. Comes out of there very nicely. Use the exit curve well.
It's always tough being the first man out in the shootout. He got the conditions laid out in front of him. He had to go with them as he goes around a 2:08.88 for the Bottle racer. David Reynolds, who collected his first pole position in his V8 supercar career at the Townsville Street Circuit earlier this year. And he's kept it clean, he's kept it straight, he's done a good job.
And James Small said, mate, well done. You've kept it off the fence. Dave Reynolds, Mark Scaife, well done, mate. It's always very hard to be the first runner in the top 10.
Yeah, buddy, yeah, it's you know, you're just pioneering right now. I did 2 laps this morning, they were both terrible. That was a bit better, but, you know, I'm happy. I can only go forward from here, mate.
Dave, it's Neil. It looked like it might have been a little bit taily in a couple of spots around there. Is that a reasonable estimate?
Yeah, most likely. It's been pretty loose all weekend. We've tried to trim it up, but haven't really found the problem yet.
Davey, track conditions, give us your rundown.
Yeah, it's looking better than it was this morning. You know, I'll see what times the other boys can do. It'd be pretty cold, so I think the times will be pretty fast.
Good job, mate. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, boys.
So 2:08.88 is the benchmark time for our first runner out. Stephen Owen here, car 49, the VIP Pet Foods car. Runner up with Jamie Whincup 2 years ago. 13 starts already.
Starting these laps way too late, Matt. That's starting the lap. You've got to have that sort of front tyre temperature. You heard that front tyre's groaning. You've got to have that front tyre temperature when you come onto the straight.
Dick Johnson looking on. He's got Stephen next to him. So Owen has headed out towards turn 1. He's underway.
And his best performance was last year for the VIP Pet Foods team in the Commodore. He qualified 6th as a result of this shootout. It's fantastic to see that brake temp. You can really see how hard the brakes work when we saw David into the chase and into the final corner. You'll see it again here with Steve as well in the latter part of the lap.
So the sparks coming off the front then.
So the light's pretty low out there to be seeing that.
Good run on the exit, nice, smooth. And now you got right out to the fence to take as much corner radius out of the kink before the cutting. Then you turn it in, got to make sure this apex, don't use too much road so you can get over the rise. A little bit oversteering both ways from the left to the right.
So the thing slid quite a lot there coming out of the cutting in second gear. He's down 0.3 of a second, as you can see.
And this is the high pressure, high intensity part of the lap because there's no room for error. It's so fast. 220 kilometres an hour. You fire off the top of Skyline. We saw some drama there in qualifying. Got to turn nicely for the right-hander before the dipper, but it wheel spun pretty hard off the bottom of the dipper there in second gear. And this is Forest Elbow. We'll give you your second intermediate on the exit here now. Use every little bit of road. Nice exit. 1.1 down. And that's 1.1 down on Dave Reynolds. So we didn't know what that was like in terms of track condition for Dave Reynolds, but it may be better than we think. Great shot from our chopper there as the cars emerge over the last rise to the fastest touring car corner in the world, 300 kilometres an hour. Look at those brake rotors.
Sparks flying still for this 37-year-old. 1.1 second adrift at the second sector, so heading towards a high 209.
And you can see the residual heat in the brakes. They don't recover when you have another big stab at them into that last corner, and you can see them glowing. So time for Steve Owen is a 2-minute 10.0.
Yeah, learn some stuff there. We'll talk when you get back.
So nearly,
we don't learn anything.
Nearly 1.2 seconds away there.
So no chat. This is this big slide that we referred to on the way out of the cutting, and then it gets sideways over the rise. He missed the apex there a little bit, and the car then right out sideways. Now look at this. Garth Tander is driving the car hard. He's driving it fast already. You have to do this on this sort of lap.
So there's the story up above, but it's somewhat of a miracle that Garth Tander is in this top 10 shootout. If you weren't with us yesterday, he went into the wall very heavy, or into the tyre barriers up at turn 2, pretty heavy in qualifying. Triggered the red flag. Under any normal sprint round, that would have meant that Garth was benched, but because this is an endurance event, he managed to get back out there, all taped up, and qualified inside the top 10. Remarkable effort.
By starting the tyre pressures just a little lower and working harder at it on the outlap, and you can see how hard Garth is getting stuck into those front tyres at the moment. One of the other things that it does, apart from phasing of the tyres is you get a read of what is going on underneath you. So you get a little rehearsal along the way.
Just have a little bit of a look at the chase, make sure there's no fluid down. Don't think there is, but just have a bit of a look. Just make sure you're happy with all your buttons as well, please.
Scott Sinclair on the radio, making sure that settings are all right. And based on what you feel, you might then be able to afford yourself a bit more brake temp, a little anti-roll bar change, or even a brake bias adjustment. If you leave it to the last corner, you've got nowhere to manoeuvre.
No doubt, that's 100% right. And what he did over the top of the hill gave him a bit of a gauge. And that brake temperature there is the thing. When that thing's 800 or 900 degrees inside the wheel, then the wheel heats up and the tyre heats up. So they generate the tyre temperature from that brake temp.
He had back-to-back poles in 2008 and 2009 here. 3 victories. Of course, he's the defending Bathurst champion with Nick Percat. He's one of the ultimate professionals in the field, and he'll be looking for a very steady, fast job. That's what Garth Tander does. Sounds simple, but that's what he has made a career of.
Didn't quite get it in at the first corner. I watched this car on the track on Thursday. The initial laps immediately fast, straight away. As soon as it dropped onto the road, it was a quick car. It'll be a fast race car tomorrow.
But I think what actually happens is he acclimatises himself very well to the place. He was fast because he, in that car, was fast. It was a big effort, a personal exertion, a level of commitment that Garth has here is very high.
It's the corner that he just went through, the pedigree corner up, now through the cutting. Turn 2 was the one that caught him out yesterday. It also caught out Nick Percat last year, but they bounced back to win the race. And by the way, Nick Percat has started this weekend brilliantly. 2 race wins in the development series and a 0.3 of a second gap between Tander and Reynolds at Sector 1. Here comes the lanky West Australian. They roar at the top of the mountain, over Skyline, 225 kilometres on approach, down through the S's. Here's the dipper. It's a good lap.
It's a very good lap. Most of it's about tyre condition. Most of it's about being ready to do the lap.
And you always know that you can position the car well here if you can start from the extreme right-hand side of the road on the approach to Forest Elbow, because it means you can position the car where you want. So he's half a second up. He can use that. He's not really worried about numbers at this stage. It's just getting the maximum. That's all he can do.
He's squeezing everything out of car number 2 through the chase.
Tander did an 8.1. And look at the brake rotor. He did an 8.1 in official qualifying. Anytime that you can get close to replicating that lap in the top 10, you've done a remarkable job. This will be a low 8.
The first sector was solid. The second sector was fantastic. The third, as he crosses the line, registers a 2:08.47.
Good job.
Okay, that's nice work. Good lap. Just make sure you're happy with your buttons there again, and good cool off. Well done.
And in typical Garth Tander fashion, he just raises the bar a little bit. Watch how wide he goes here. Up over the curbing, right on the outside of turn 2.
This is into McPhillamy Park, one of the best corners in the world. Cars arrive over there at over 200 kilometres an hour. Garth Mark Scaife, fantastic job, mate. Very, very good lap.
Yeah, look, it was, mate. Probably actually a bit soft on the lap. I probably didn't attack turn 2. Probably a little cautious just here at the moment.
It's probably wise to be like that, GT.
Yeah, but once I got through there, actually had a really good feel with the car. So attacked across the top. The car was actually really good. So that's not going to be fast enough for pole, but we'll see where we end up.
What's your read on the track condition, GT?
Yeah, it's still here. Yeah, I'm not going to give them anything, so they're really listening to me.
Thanks, mate. We'll catch you.
Thanks, boys.
Let's check in with Mark Beretta. Brett?
Nick Percat with me. Nick, this weekend shaping up pretty well.
It is. It's still early days in the shootout, but GT can pull a lap out, and I think it'll be a decent time, but we'll see what happens. You know, this place, a bit more rubber's going to go down for a few more cars, and if it cools off a bit more, the track might get a bit quicker, but we're 1 position ahead of last year so far on the grid, so what could be worse.
Excellent, mate. No, going very well. Look, Mike Devereaux, the boss of Holden, is here with us. Mike, that puts a smile on your face.
Oh, it always does, but we've got, I think, a great weekend ahead of us. Garth did a nice job.
Very nicely done, Mike. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Some pretty heavy firepower there in the Holden Racing Team garage this weekend.
It's Mike Devereaux's first visit to Bathurst. There will be a real eye-opener for him because he's a real motorsport fan. and to see the culture and to see 50 years of history will be fantastic for him.
Tim Slade was inside the top 10 for the Sandown 500 and finished inside the top 10 with Andrew Thompson. So different story here, though. This is his first time in the shootout at Mount Panorama. Tomorrow will be Tim's 100th championship race.
He's been to a training camp in Sydney since we last saw him at Sandown. And on the right is his co-driver Andrew Thompson, and they're both really happy with the behaviour of the car. Where's the engineer on the left?
Needs to get on with it now. This is a bit slow. See, Garthairs actually caught him in the cool-down lap. So Tim Slade to start one of the biggest laps of his life around this awesome racetrack.
A massive crowd along pit straight. Here it is, Hill Corner, turn 1.
Looked like he got the apex okay there, and he used all of the exit space nicely. So good, clean start. May not sound like much, but it determines your terminal speed at the end of Mountain Straight by just getting that right, not too excited. This is where the first real test comes for the braking and turning performance of the car. Looked like he just didn't quite grab the apex there. You can get away with it there, though, because the camber of the road tucks the car, holds it. You actually walk the track. There's an amazing amount of camber on the road there, angle on the road. Clean second gear exit through the cutting. There's an awkward gear shift, just the way the diff ratio works here. The second to third shift climbing out of the cutting can be awkward, but the car was stable and he's quite close to Tander. And we had to have a little steering reset there.
It unsettled the car on the way into McPhillamy. He uses the curb on the exit.
It's 225 kilometres an hour before he applies his foot to the brake there, and then it's back 2 gears to second gear here. 80-odd Ks at the dipper. It was just a little bit untidy through there. He was chasing the steering of the car.
It's still happening on the exit of the dipper now around Forest Elbow, our second sector time. So he's drifted a little bit, lost 0.3 of a second up the top of the mountain. Now on the other side, the down run along Conrod Straight. So he won't be looking to set the timesheets on fire here with a rip-roaring pole-sitting lap, because he knows that experience counts for so much, and this is only his first time in the top 10 shootout at Mount Panorama. He'll be looking for a solid job, a nice even time.
Had good pace through Conrod and the chase there. It was on the rev limiter in 6th gear for quite a long period of time.
And this will be solid too. 2:08.5, so second on the list.
He recovered in that last sector. That was a good run into the chase.
At the moment, just slotted into 1/10 behind Tander. Awesome last sector, well done.
Wasn't it just? Carried maximum speed through the chase. And Tim Slade, this youngster with so much speed behind him, has slotted into second. So 4 down, 6 to go in the shootout. Here at the Mountain, the 7th coverage of the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000 continues on this Saturday shootout afternoon. We've had 4 drivers attack the circuit. Garth Tander, the best of them. 2:08.4755 is the leading time. And we just saw Ross Stone there looking on, the second of the Stone brothers racing the cars to head out for the one-lap dash to determine pole position. Shane Van Gisbergen, car number 9, the SP Tools racer.
Yeah, Ross keeping a very close eye on him. Matty, obviously, at the moment. Ross, did you say much to Shane before he went out today?
No, he knows what he's got to do. It was really strange. He hopped in the car about 5 minutes before he was due to drive out. Usually he's pretty cool. And he was sitting in there ready to go. So I think he's all ready for it.
In the zone. Love it.
Yeah, he's in it. Yep.
All right, all the best, Ross.
We'll see what he's got.
It's the 27th consecutive year that Ross and Jimmy have been coming to the mountain, and we know their fabulous history with Ford comes to a close at the end of this year. They'll be driving Mercedes in 2013, E-Class AMG, so this is something of a end of an era. And the track's just starting to look a little bit nastier. The lights are on for car number 9. Still no sign of any moisture falling. And Van Gisbergen gets his lap underway.
He was 5th last year in this shootout. You can hear how popular this young guy is. He was 6th in 2009. a very strong performance at Sandown several weeks ago. This is a great shot of the run south, essentially, as you make a very distinctive uphill run into turn 2. You can brake very late. There's a crest in the road, then you've got to tuck the car in. You had it right in the gutter there.
Looks smooth. Only problem is sometimes when they look smooth, they're slow. So it's very hard to know until we get to the top of the hill there as to whether he got a really nice flowing run up the steepest section of the road there, out of the cutting and out of turn 2. It's incredibly steep, the uphill incline, and no road left and very close to Tander. Great job.
5/100ths of a second. The front right compressed as he comes up towards McPhillamy.
Nice angle on the run into McPhillamy. Opened up the approach massively. This is a very good-looking lap so far. Hard to tell the body language over the top of the hill. Oh, it's that little bobble on the gear change, second to third.
That may have cost him, and sideways over the hill.
Very late on the brakes there, back to second gear. Got the throttle hard early. Second sector, though, is good relative to Tander.
That's Luke Youlden looking on top left, his co-driver. They had this car on pole position for the Sandown 500. He's giving a rever down Conrod Straight. A Leighton Hewitt come on from the Kiwi, Shane van Gisbergen. Talk about pumped. He's 7/100ths of a second up on the time of Garth Tander.
It was a big attack at the chase, and he got it back to the right, and you could tell there was huge brake pressure on the car. It dipped violently in the nose. There was a lot of brake load in it there. He pulled it up and he's done it. This will go very close.
23-year-old Kiwi is known for his aggressive racing. He's verbalised this one, and he's done a 2:08.1. Shane van Gisbergen goes to the top of the list.
His engineer Dave Stewart, that was a beautiful lap.
Awesome work, buddies. Awesome work there. Well done, mate. P1. Give it a good cool down. We'll see you at the scales. Great job, buddy.
Give him a pat on the back, and Luke Youlden right here. Luke, wow, that was some lap by your teammate.
Yeah, he looked a little bit untidy there coming down the mountain. Was a little bit worried there for a second, but seeing the sector times there, he's done an awesome job. He's this weekend he's really kept his head. He's just been in an awesome place, I think. So looking forward to tomorrow.
How's your heart rate?
Oh, it's not too bad. I'm not in the car, so I trust him. He's obviously not a bad steerer, so let him go.
I think he's all right.
Yeah.
Enjoy tomorrow.
Cheers,
mate.
thank you.
That's understatement of the year. Not a bad steerer. He was only a 10th of a second away from the time that he did in the qualifying session yesterday. So a very, very good performance from Van Gisbergen. A little ragged out of the dipper. But the thing about that was the level of confidence. And the thing I really liked was Dave Stewart's comment to him, Matt. Well done, mate. Great lap. And that sort of support is very important for young drivers.
Been up here a long time, mate. I've seen some amazing things in race day and the shootout. I don't reckon I've ever heard a come on halfway down Conrod Straight from the driver. That's insane.
That's unusual. Craig Lowndes.
How's the CV of this bloke? 19th start this year, 5-time winner, 5-time runner-up. So 2 pole positions, 10 years apart, in the last 7 years ago in 2005.
And that's interesting, isn't it? So he puts together an amazing race, but very often we see Craig's either right there on the edge, or you get these wild, out-of-control qualifying laps. You never know quite what you're going to get.
There's his partner, Warren Luff, winners of the Sandown 500. Special livery this weekend, like a lot of the teams and drivers have done, but as always, Peter Brock is on the mind of Craig Lowndes. So Brocky ended up with 6 pole positions in his career here. And if Craig can get this one, it will send him up the list as well.
That's the important corner. He did a pretty good job on the exit. I don't think it quite made it into the apex as well as he would have liked. Craig turns the car at the corner very early. That's his style. He runs the car in on the nose, and he keeps the momentum up. He's got a great style, great flair for it. These 2 corners, turn 1 and turn 2, make the lap. Just see how he goes. Yep, he got it in nicely. It's a bit oversteer in the exit. Got it right up on the exit curb. Used all of the road, and a very, very nice run. And see how he had to turn it a little bit early there? That's actually a good gauge for the Lowndes style. Up over this little crest, unstable. He was very sideways there earlier today. Up under the tree, to the top of the plateau now, and away from what was the best first sector.
The crowd will always always applaud Craig Lowndes up at the top of the mountain. They do so again. He's got 0.3 of a second to make up.
Don't worry, down here he's very, very good. This is the part of the track that he's best.
He was on 2 wheels over the top of Skyline then. The front of it looks a bit low. It's actually scuffed the road quite a few times. Cleanly to 3rd gear, no rev limiter. Tucked up against the wall, that's what he needs to open up the corner as much as possible. Good, clean, straight exit, no sliding, but no time either.
Doesn't look as good as it needs to be. It hasn't been as fast as Whincup all weekend so far. So there's a bit of work to do for Craig Lowndes to make this into a good race car, and they focused on a race car earlier today in practice 6, and they haven't got the emphasis yet on qualifying. Let's have a look at the last sector. Look at that glow of the front brakes. Didn't quite get it turned there well enough either. Used too much road on the right on the exit, and that slowed the change of direction back to the right.
It's rare to see the time drift away from Lowndes over the top of the mountain. That's where he always makes his mark. He's not going to better the time here on this one. A 2:09 flat.
Good job there, mate. Bit of a handful. Anyway, it's a long race.
Jeremy Moore put it in beautifully. Bit of a handful. It's been that way the last 24, 48 hours for Craig.
It doesn't look good enough, and this is what I said was a very important corner. He got it turned. It made the apex okay, but typical Lowndes, this is fantastic. This is the 2-wheel action over Skyline.
Craig Lowndes, Matty White, Jeremy just said to you a bit of a handful. You agree?
Yeah, I suppose one of those things. It's been quite difficult to get a read on the car with good tyres, but obviously tomorrow is where we want to be, and of course the car's in one piece at the moment, which is great.
Lowndes, he mucks gave. It doesn't seem like the car's flowing well enough, mate. It looks too pointy at the front.
Yeah, well, it's funny, Scapey, up until qualifying, I've been struggling with understeer, and of course you make a change for the top 10, and I think we just went a little bit too far. Yeah, you're right, the car is very pointy, just lost the rear a couple of times, so, and you know how important it is to get a car with confidence to go across the top of the mountain here, so tomorrow's another day, we'll see what happens.
Hey, mate, are you missing me at all? Or?
Oh, look, yeah, look, ask me that at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
I love it when you're truthful.
You can have him back. This extreme slow-mo is mind-boggling in parts of this circuit, just to see the amount of rub, how the guard comes down heavy on that front right tyre as he approaches up towards McPhillamy there. Look at this. Whoa.
And that's what Neil said. I think they may have lowered the front of it a bit to get better turn, and it's probably too low under that scenario. It actually takes grip away when it bottoms like that.
So Will Davison with John McIntyre this weekend. Stood on the top step of the podium in 2009 with Garth Tander. Now one of the 2 Ford Performance Racing retro liveries inside the top 10.
Just to get that in perspective, Lowndes with a 9:09, he did a 7:96 in qualifying, so it's more than a second away. That disappointed voice, don't you worry, behind that big smile, that voice was a dejected Craig Lowndes.
Absolutely right.
So the climb begins for Will from the lowest point of this circuit, which is Murray's Corner, to the top. It's a 570-foot vertical difference. And this is where you start to feel it. Out of Griffin's Bend, up to the cutting. So Shane Van Gisbergen, the young Kiwi, SP Tools Racing, currently sits on provisional pole position for the great race.
These cars have got great mid-corner grip, I say it all the time, and they achieve their speed so well, and right out near the fence there, he did a really good job, and he's up by a 1/10 of a second. Will Davison has looked very, very fast this weekend so far, and his laps have been right on the money, perfectly right up on the berm at the end of McPhillamy Park. They've been perfectly positioned, no room for error at this place, and the right-hander now into the dipper. Look at all the road you've got to use. Nice flow off there. Be interesting to see this next sector now. Lights on the dash. And back to second gear. It's slightly down. Just have a look now. Oh, it is nothing in it. But remember, Van Gisbergen and Slade were very good in the last sector.
Well, SBR cars, known for their horsepower.
Have a listen. Rev limiter. I reckon it just made it.
Just hit it. FPR cars still searching for the first win for Ford Performance Racing at Bathurst. That's 161 laps away tomorrow. He got a little bit loose there on the exit of the chase. So 3 1/100th of a second is the difference between Will Davison and Shane van Gisbergen, and it's a 2:08 flat. He's gone ahead. Will Davison now sets the pace in the fight for pole position. Mark Winterbottom, Fabian Coulthard, Jamie Whincup still to come. We're back and Mark Winterbottom is on track. He's got himself a hurry along as he chases down his teammate in the fight for pole position at 2012 up towards turn 2.
So it's third gear through this right-hander at turn 2. It's 130 kilometres an hour tucked in against the gutter there, and then let the car flow out wide, fourth gear, and then opening up this approach to the cutting as much as possible. Back to second gear. And we're very close to seeing a high 7 at the moment. Twice this man's been on pole position. He did it in 2007 and 2010. Nearly 0.3 of a second away in the first intermediate. We've seen people recover, especially in the last sector if you get it right, as you saw Tim Slade earlier.
Over skyline, 3 poles and 3 wins so far in the championship of 2012. 4 times his car has been on the front row of the Bathurst grid in his 9 starts.
Coming up now to the second timing intermediate. So he's recovered a lot of ground there. So 1.5 tenths is not a lot. Now it's a big, important sector here. Corner exit speed dictates pace. Where you put your foot on the brake has a big influence, and you've got to be pinpoint accurate. This is a big moment for Frosty.
300 kilometres on approach.
Right to the apex, a beautiful approach, massive brake pressure here. Just kisses the curb on the inside, much smoother on the exit.
12 months ago, the rain ruined any chance that Frosty had in the top 10 shootout. He started from 10th position. This is really close, and it's against his teammate in Will Davison. He stops the clock in third, 2:08.19, provisionally on the second row of the grid.
Good effort. It's a very good effort. It was a good lap. Very hard to make that up at the end. This is this fantastic shot on the entry to McPhillamy Park.
And as you crest the top of the brow there, it's briefly on 2 wheels, trailed throttle. You can see the blue flame. It's bottoming out on the front right-hand corner in the process. And how close is it at the top? Davo's got a 2:08.0, Van Gisbergen a 2:08.1, and Frosty a 2:08.1. That is very, very tight. These guys are maximising the current conditions.
Will Davison hot out of the car, magic lap. Will, well done.
Yeah, cheers, Brett. Tough. I mean, you know, it's nice and cool, a lot cooler than it's been all weekend. But the track didn't have that much grip, but it's getting a bit quicker as the shootout's going on. So we had a bit of a gamble on setup, on tyre pressures. It was quite loose in the rear, but still pretty happy with the lap. I didn't leave too much on the table, that's for sure. A couple of little errors, but certainly didn't under-try, so I'm pretty happy.
The conditions up the top of the mountain tricky?
Yeah, it was a little bit tricky. I mean, it's been you know, so sunny and bright all weekend. Now it's pretty dark. It was all right though. I changed the visor and yeah, I could see what I needed to see. So fun lap. You know, it gets the heart going. It's a full-on lap. We'll see where we end up. But as I said, great spot to start for the big one tomorrow.
Outstanding work. We'll go and enjoy it. Well done.
Yeah, I will. Thanks. Cheers.
Well, this is an enormous moment for the Lockwood entry of Fabian Coulthard, the Kiwi, the flamboyant Kiwi. You'll remember a couple of years ago, an almighty rollover down at the Chase on lap 1. Last year, David Bernard was involved in the biggest event up towards turn 2, the biggest crash. This year, those guys are paired together. They've got revenge. They've got a score to settle against the mountain. He can start it right here. Second last man out.
Just trailing back into the pit lane, I heard a message from Mark Winterbottom and he said it's starting to rain.
Well, if that's the case, then Will Davison's got a lock on his first Bathurst pole position, but right now it's Lockwood's turn. So what are the conditions that Fabian's going to face when he gets up to the top of the mountain?
And there's nothing more spooky than those little drops of water and not knowing how wet it is. It's one of the only surfaces in Australia that you can't pick when it first rains. It doesn't go shiny, it goes a slightly different grey colour. And as you see, Fabian there out of turn 2 uses every little bit of road. This will be one of the biggest laps in his career. He qualified so well yesterday to be less than 1/10 away from Jamie Whincup. and using every little bit of road. Look at that, right out to the fence, up under the tree now. We'll get a number for you and a fair way away. You won't make that back. 0.47.
It's pretty close to half a second. It's a long way.
Jamie Whincup waiting in the wings. He'll be the last man out. So just about half a second for Fabian to make up by the second sector mark, which is at Forest Elbow, the exit thereof, and the run onto Conrock Straight.
Will Davison said at the end of his run there that he didn't leave much on the table. And he said he'd rather have it like that so you know that you've tried as hard as you can, sideways. Good pickup back to 0.35.
He's got a couple of tenths over the top of the hill. He had to reset the throttle then, though. He grabbed it early and it slid, and to recover it opposite lock, he had to lift the throttle slightly and then go again. We'll see whether or not it impacts his time in the final sector.
Normally it's the mirror. Normally it's the mirror rubbing on the exit of Forest Elbow.
Exactly. He's only just stopping this thing down there at the chase that was having the full wriggle under brakes, and he snatches sideways second to third and the shift down the hill as well. So he's really got this thing on the ragged edge in the last third of the lap.
Oh, what an arm wrestle of Fabian versus his own car versus the timesheet. Fourth.
Good job.
2:08.3. He'll look back at that lap and see the kind of fight, the get out of jail here. What's this? Almost gets it.
I reckon it bumped it.
And yeah, just gets it. And from then on, he just had to wrestle it down to the final turn. Oh,
fastest last sector. Well done.
Brett's.
Well, Brad Jones, we know how tough these Bathurst top 10 shootout laps are, but Fabian, he really threw everything at it.
Well, he did. He was certainly having a go, and it's obviously, well, for me anyway, it's much easier sitting in the car and just standing here watching. But, you know, starting 4th or 5th is a great spot for the race. We've got a long way to go on Sunday, and, you know, I think we're in you know, certainly in good company and certainly got a car that can get the job done.
Well done, Brad. Congrats.
Thanks, Brett.
So he really failed in the first sector, 0.47 down, and he probably didn't really attack the lap. That's the part that makes the difference. A really good response in segment 2 and segment 3 of the lap.
Last part of the lap was fantastic.
Absolutely.
And here's our championship leader, the 3-time Bathurst winner, 3-time V8 Supercar champion. His 11th start. Tomorrow there's another champion MotoGP. 2-time world champ Casey Stoner, who's been a regular in the Team Vodafone garage, and I reckon will be more of a familiar face when he gives up 2 wheels and starts focusing on being at home, being with his family, and being one of a very interested spectator in V8 Supercars.
It's wet.
Yeah.
I heard another message a moment ago about the weather conditions. Remember, he got stymied by weather last year, Jamie Whincup, and he finished 8th. The year before, he was 3rd, so he's on the 2nd row of the grid. These are very difficult conditions for our reigning champion.
He's had 30 conditions in his career, but he's never started from the front row of the grid here in Bathurst. And if the gods are going to have their say today, that run of outs will continue because it is getting wet. You can see it, he can see it. He'll know that it's only going to be worse the higher he goes up this mountain.
Flick the wiper, mate. You need to get the wiper on so you know how wet it is. It's very hard to read this now. It was already a little bit wet at turn 1 because he missed the apex. This is honest. You just cannot believe how wild this is. You do not know the track condition when you arrive.
I noticed he took his right hand off the steering wheel off turn 1. He went down and had a little adjust. Is that any roll bar or brake bias?
Yeah. Okay, first sector coming up, boys. 52.2. The time laid down by Will Davison, and he's up. 0.009 in worsening conditions. Jamie Whincup is taking the fight to the weather gods.
Well, that's a big effort, isn't it, to be able to squeeze out a number in these conditions. He wasn't entirely happy with the car on Thursday or Friday. He said he's had to chase it quite a bit, and there are a lot of eyes glued to this man around the mountain at the moment. Now he starts the run down. We'll get a read on this at the 2nd sector.
Anyone that questions this bloke's commitment are kidding themselves. That is unbelievable.
Here comes the 2nd number.
Oh! 2 10,000ths. 2 10,000ths of a second.
2 big brake applications and some turn inaccuracy here, not to mention some straight line speed, and with the backdrop of raindrops.
This is Ford versus Holden. This is mate versus mate. Jamie Whincup, Will Davison used to be housemates together. They're both going for their first pole position at the mountain. Everything's on the line here in the shootout.
Yep, he did a good job.
Final turn coming up, 0.0002. That's officially nothing in it. Can Whincup beat Davison, or will Davison's time stand? No, Jamie slots into second, and Will Davison gets his first ever pole position at the mountain. It's a blue oval celebration at Ford Performance Racing.
Buddy, I'm trying to get my way into the middle of this huddle to see Will Davison. Well, congratulations. There are just amazing scenes in the garage here at FPR, mate. Congratulations. Your first pole here at Bathurst. The emotion just incredible.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? Isn't that good?
How good is it, really?
No, I mean, it's awesome. Bathurst Shootout doesn't give you any points, but Bathurst Shootout gives you no points. But it's such a special part of Bathurst history, and as a driver, this is a big moment. Just see my engineer ship his face there, and that sums it up. Absolute pure gold. So that's a big goal I've always wanted to tick, the old shootout pole at Bathurst. Doesn't mean much for tomorrow, but seeing how close it was at the end there just makes it that more special.
I tell you what it does mean. It means you've got clean air, you've got the front running, and you've got the race certainly under your control early on.
Well, I think the last 4 years I've been at the lead at the start of the race, and it hasn't meant anything. So, it is a great start. It's out of the trouble. Tomorrow's a whole new day. But as I said, that's just a really fun, special moment for a driver and a team. And the one-lap bandit, the clouds are coming in, and we've nailed it, so I'm pumped.
All right, mate, take a deep breath, relax, enjoy it. We'll see you in the morning.
You bet. Thanks.
That's Will Davison's 11th career pole. He becomes the 28th man to join the honour list of pole sitters at Mount Panorama. What about the performance of Jamie Whincup? Take your hat off, folks. That was one remarkable effort to put it on the front row of the grid in worsening conditions. Shane Van Gisbergen and Mark Winterbottom will be on the second row. So Saturday is all about pole position, and Will Davison has done it. He started on the front row of the grid.
$5,000 and another Armour All Pole Award for this man, Will Davison. Well done. That was an awesome performance, mate. Congratulations. And you too, John. And you, Tim. Tremendous moment. Great to see the reaction from the team here, and this is just a huge, huge day for you.
Yeah, you're right. And whoever says a shootout, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, I think that just proves everyone wrong. It doesn't mean much for tomorrow, but it's a big deal. Being the fastest man and the fastest team, fastest car in the shootout at Bathurst is a big deal. Just to see my engineer's reaction and the whole team, that's a big buzz for me. I'm pumped.
And there's going to be a lot of people on the other side of the pond who are pretty pumped up about that one, John.
Oh, absolutely. All the Kiwis and the Ford fans, I mean, they've been sick and tired of seeing those red things on the front for too long. So, hey, it's going to be hopefully a blue day tomorrow, or white and blue day tomorrow, yeah.
What about a word from the boss? You got a smile on your face?
Yeah, I'm still a bit in shock about that split at the second. 2 10,000s.
I know.
I don't think I've ever seen any sport, swimming, anything, with a split like that. That's just unbelievable.
It is amazing.
That's a hair.
It's just absolutely incredible. We've been talking about it all season, and even yesterday in qualifying where we saw these crazy margins, but in the end you knock off your mate. Now, we started the year talking on V8 Extra, you and Jamie sitting there together about having this arm wrestle for the championship, and we've never seen anything like what we just saw today.
Yeah, unreal. I mean, I didn't have the best practice session this morning, but I did my shootout rehearsal early when I think the track was quite dirty, so I've been nervous all afternoon as to what the track was going to give me, and clearly it wasn't as quick as any of us thought. I mean, we thought it'd be nice and cool, we'd see some big numbers, but the grip just wasn't there on the track, so I gave it all I had. It was a pretty loose lap, but we just hung on.
Talk me through it.
Really? I mean, I could stand
full
here all
debrief
day.
if you don't mind, corner by corner.
Long story short, we set the car up to be quite pointy on the nose, which is better than being understeering. So I was backing it in, chasing the rear of the car pretty much everywhere. I think my mouth was wide open for about 3/4 of the lap. I had oil burners on the elbows. I think that's one of yours saying, Cromper. But I was busy in there, but I knew it flowed pretty nicely, and I knew it was going to be definitely top 2 rows. So I wasn't sure what Frosty or Jamie could give me, but we've held on, so it's awesome.
We're looking at the lap, and there was a moment there up through turn 2 on the run to the cutting, and we were talking about the fact that for all the drivers, including you, where you're really making an assessment at that point about what sort of grip you got, what the car's doing, and telegraphing what you need. Did you get some confidence at that point as you started the climb through the mountain?
Yeah, I knew the tyres had phased in pretty nicely, but when you start your lap with a big sort of rear locking moment, you sort of second guess how deep you can go into the first corner. But listen, as I said, we're a little bit limited in the rear side of the car, but I was able to place the front of the car wherever I wanted it. But in qualifying, you get sort of 3 runs at it, so you're really on top of the car. But when you've done pretty much 2 laps today, you're just second-guessing the car all the way around. But the car's pretty confident this Byron.
Did you dare to look at any of the reference numbers on the steering wheel at this point, or were you just fully glued like a cartoon character to the road?
No, I did. I mean, sitting at the end of pit lane, I knew 8.1 was the time to do, and I looked at my sector time down Conrod, and I knew I was on for about an 8.0. So certainly wasn't the sort of number to do a low 7, but we knew that wasn't going to happen. So I knew I was looking good if I just got through the last sector clean to have a good starting spot. But Jamie's been the king of the last sector all weekend, so when there was pretty much dead even in the middle, I was pretty nervous about his last sector.
I can hear in the background at the moment, you've just pulled 6th gear, you're making the run down Conrod straight in my ears, and this is a point for the driver where you've got to make a big decision, don't you, about where you stick your foot on the brake and how late.
Yeah, and every time I go now, I always go like 10 metres deeper. Your just natural instinct takes over in a shootout, and bouncing on the rev limiter in 6, sliding through the chase, and you're a busy boy, but as I said, main focus was to just get through the last 2 corners, but I didn't leave too much on the table. I finished in the grass, actually finished the lap, so there's probably a couple of thousandths if there if I want to be greedy.
Will, congratulations. The lap's just completed there. We've been looking at it while we've been chatting. Boys, absolute thrill to be down here and talking to you. We really appreciate you taking time. I know there's a million people want to talk, and for all the Blue Oval fans, there's one to smile about, eh? Well done. Thanks for that. We'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be a big day. Thanks, boys. Barrett's?
Well, Jamie Whincup with me. Jamie, some good news, I guess, on 2 fronts. That is the second closest pole result in the history of this race, and the first time for you on the front row, which is to be celebrated.
Thanks, Brett. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. It's car had the tools to do the job today. The car was fantastic. Clearly, Car 6 did a great job. I congratulate them. But there's plenty of red in the stands today. I felt like I've let a few people down. So if it would, we'll regroup. We'll bounce back tomorrow and see what we got.
How are you feeling about tomorrow?
Hey, I wasn't feeling as confident until probably after then, to be honest. The conditions are very similar now to what they'll be tomorrow, and the car felt excellent. So we'll, as I say, we'll regroup, come back tomorrow. Once again, congratulations to Will. He clearly did a great job, and hopefully I can redeem myself with a few Team Vodafone Holden fans up there.
It was a great effort today. See you bright and early.
Yeah, will do. Thanks, Brett. Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, we sure will. We're looking forward to the best day in Australian motorsport bright and early tomorrow, as we just went through the Armour All qualifying grid for tomorrow. Cameron Waters and Jesse Dixon bringing up the rear of the field. So 29 cars, 58 drivers. And we just heard from Jamie Whincup. Will Davison gets pole position. The gap, 3/100ths of a second between first and second. That was an extraordinary drive in pretty bad conditions for Jamie Whincup.
Well, for both. I mean, that's a classic great race, Ford and Holden battle, and great friends. And for Whincup to do that with a bit of water on the windscreen and all the pressure of that moment was a very, very good performance.
Give us an idea of what it's like as you head up Mountain Straight and there's rain on the windscreen, mate.
Nothing's wilder. Nothing's wilder, Matt, I can tell you. You're a pioneer. You don't know how much grip you've got when you arrive.
Well, I don't need to tell you folks at home tomorrow morning, as soon as you get up, switch on the dial on 7 and stay there all day, because the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000 is live from first thing in the morning. Daylight savings kicks in certain parts of the country tonight, so make sure you adjust your clocks if need be. But join us first thing in the morning as we get the biggest day underway, the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000. And don't forget, coming up in just a few minutes' time, Scafey's going to stay with me. We've got a whole stack of legends standing by in the studio to come through and talk about the top 10 awesome moments as we celebrate 50 years here at Mount Panorama. Will Davison, pole position today. Stay with us.